right, I'm a native New Yorker, born in Bay Ridge, Queens, grew up, live up in Harlem. So when they asked me to do this, I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. All right, so I'm here to talk to us about AI today. I am looking for a comfort monitor. Okay, thank you very much. Um, can we go back to the first slide? Thanks, guys. And I may have pushed a bunch of buttons. So, okay, so great to be with you. If you haven't all heard, AI is a thing now. And it's been kind of a whirlwind for the last couple of years. And so I spend my time primarily with three groups. One at Adobe, our Firefly product team, and our research team. These are like the big brains that do all the deep thinking on AI. Secondly, I spend a ton of time with enterprises and brands who are trying to figure out how to make AI work for them. And lastly, I spend time with the most fun group, all the creative studios, the marketing leaders who are actually putting it into practice. So we are entering an era where I think that human creativity is no longer constrained by time. Of course, we're all bound by time and space, logically in physics, but AI is really speeding up the creative process, everything from ideation to finished deployed assets, and we're able to reach more markets, in more languages, and across more channels. So think about time as a barrier fading kind of to black in the background. But I like to take a lesson from history, and so I'll give you two. We've been at the intersection of large tectonic shifts in creativity and technology before. The first one, and yes, this is a big throwback to the 1800s, the invention of the camera. When the camera was invented, painters were upset. And famously, a French painter by the name of Delaroche declared that painting was dead. Clearly, we know that not to be true. And actually, the camera unleashed an entire Cambrian explosion of new artistic styles, artists like Kahlo, Picasso, Monet. So you get the picture there. The second lesson in history, of course, I have to name drop our beloved Photoshop. Give me a hand raise if you've ever used Photoshop. Okay. So we use Photoshop as a verb now, right? Who posts any sort of photo without doing a touch? Nobody. But when we launched Photoshop in the 1990s, we got a lot of angry calls from artists who said we were destroying their craft, right? So what we did at that time is we brought in an artist, David Hockney, now obviously world famous as a digital artist. He did a creative jam with our creative leaders. He played with the tool, and really he legitimized digital art as part of the creative taxonomy. So I give you those two lessons because AI is just the latest tectonic shift that we're all experiencing. I did study math and computer science, so I'm a bit of a nerd. Thank you for the nerd club. And so I think of mathematical formulas. So I give you this mathematical formula of thinking about how AI is an exponential amplifier to our own humanity and our own creativity if we use it responsibly. So I want to talk to you in these few minutes we have together about three unlimited possibilities that are unleashed with AI. The first one, we can't have an AI conversation without mentioning the word agentic, so we'll talk about agents. The second thing is marketing, and we've talked about personalized marketing for a really long time. And the last one, which is really exciting and new, is world building around IP. So let's start with the idea of AI agents. Um, it feels like most of what we've learned about AI comes from sci-fi. And that means the AI agent is so intelligent, right? So accomplished, it basically takes over your world. In our view at Adobe, we think of AI agents as crucial, but they're more of a companion. They're created to be reflecting you and your perspective, and almost like a creative helper in what you're trying to get done. And so, who couldn't use another creative intern, right, on the team? Someone who can interact, reason with you, debate, Not bad, right? Like we could all use a little more help. So we're in our early days of developing creative agents. So I'm going to just show you 3 examples that we have, one that's launched and 2 in the works. If you've used Premiere Pro, if you're a video professional, you've probably used this in post at some point. Media intelligence is a really important idea. So if you've ever shot footage, now you're in post trying to find that one perfect clip, you usually literally send an intern into the closet to run through the thousands of hours of footage to find the clip for you. Um, this is where, honestly, AI can take the drudgery out of that work. And so what we do is we semantically tag using VLM and other methods all the footage so it understands what's in the footage. In this case, maybe you're looking for a delicious clip of a taco, with lettuce. So think about AI speeding a mundane task and creativity along. The second one is an Explore, again, in Photoshop. This is about a creative agent that can improve, both analyze your photo and suggest ways to improve it. Before, you would do all this work manually, right? Pushing pixels around. And now, in this particular shot, a hero shot in Paris, pesky tourists in the background, the agent can start to suggest tasks. You're still the creative director. You decide what gets done. But when you direct the agent goes off, connects the data sources, and completes that for you. Done in an instant. And the last one is in a product that we call Adobe Express. This we consider a more accessible creative product for people like me who maybe didn't go to art school and don't know the deep taxonomy of creative language. But here I can say, hey, I want to make something pop. I don't need to know much about the language of layers or shadowing or depth in order to make this work. The agent understands my creative intent and goes off and executes that. In this particular case, it also can push to multiple channels, resize it in an instant, translate it, and push it to social. Okay, so what is the implication of AI and AI agents? This may be a little counterintuitive, but the way I think about it is that actually human taste and ingenuity become even more paramount. So when you democratize the tooling, because AI actually makes creativity more accessible to all of us and to students and to folks all across the globe, what actually makes a creative project, a movie, a short stand out is actually your creative vision. So creativity becomes even more paramount in the age of AI. So let's go on to the next idea, which is that we have been thinking about personalized marketing at N=1 for a really long time. If you are in the marketing space, you've probably worked on technology stacks, putting in a CDP, a customer data platform, analytics, a DAM for your data management. But once you had all the piping in place, what you realized was you don't actually have enough content to fill the pipe. And we know that actually to drive growth, content is what we need to fill the pipe. You need tens of thousands of assets, like, on a weekly, monthly basis for paid, for social, for email, websites, apps. I mean, I think you get the idea, right? It's a huge river of content we need. So again, I do like math. This is what I call the math problem. It's a combinatorics math problem. Imagine you only had 8 products that you were asked to put out into the world. And this number of languages, this number of refreshes, this is actually all an underestimate. You're already at 500,000 assets for these 8 SKUs. In our world, this would be millions and millions of assets. And so what we find is that people just stop supporting, right? They only support the top 3 products, the top 3 markets, and we don't get localization or personalization at scale. AI, responsible AI, is really an incredible unlock for this combinatorics problem. Compounding this problem, however, is that if you are in a marketing department or you are a CMO, probably you've been asked for 5 times the amount of content, and your CFO probably said you're on a flat to down budget at the same time. Your creative team is working on a lot of tasks that are not high creativity, and I hate to say it, there's a lot of creative waste out there. Even after we've put a hero asset out into the world, we only reuse 1 in 10 of those assets. Okay, but we're not here to be depressed. It's a beautiful day in New York City at Seaport. So let's keep talking about what is the unlimited possibility of this. So if we think about AI, there are really 4 use cases that have been adopted right now. These are in play right now. I'm going to take you through a couple of those, starting with the one on the lower right, which was around unique experiences. So we worked with Gatorade. Gatorade, the athletic team, feels like the bottle. This is the badge of the athlete. And if you have any athletes in your family, I have 2 swimmers, this bottle, this is lining the edge of the pool. Everyone's got one of these. Now, they had special edition ones by Serena Williams, etc., but they took the experience to a whole new level with AI. They worked with Adobe Firefly because it was the only commercially safe AI out there, and they launched right before Christmas an AI-generated bottle. It respects the paradigm, the bolt, the design aesthetic, but you get to decide. You want a bunny swimming in the pool? Great, you can have it. An astronaut jogging on the moon? Fine, you can have it. All generated with AI. This product was premium priced and did really, really well, and the Pepsi and Gatorade teams are doing more of these AI-generated extensions this coming year. The next one is really more about reaching audience. And you can see in this clip, many times we shoot in one aspect. And in this particular case, there's a product. Maybe if we want to crop it for another channel, we do a really bad crop, right? We lose the action, we lose the product we're trying to hero. And so what we have been able to do with AI is reframe all these videos, which again, if you have been in video editing and post, this is frame by frame that you are rekeying. With a click of a button, you can reframe for all the channels you're in social. So this is a huge unlock for productivity and for audience reach. And the last, again, for Adobe, our CEO likes to tell us to drink our own champagne. And what that means is we always have to be customer zero for every product that we put out into the world. One of the products here, Firefly Services, what we did was for our own Black Friday, we have to put about 16,000 assets in 30 languages out across the globe in 3 days. That used to take us 16 to 20 weeks to get done. And with smart AI, templates, creative QA, we were able to shrink that process by 60% and get that product out into market all through Black Friday. Really well received. So what's the implication for marketing with AI? It's not just enough to make more content. We already have lots of bad creative out there without the help of AI. The real task is to do 10x the content that's on brand and high quality. And so we're going to see brands that really harness AI in a smart way, including knowing their brand universe, to shrink that timeline and put out 10x the content. Okay, the last unlimited possibility I want to talk to you about is around world building. So in the last, year or so, global brands, media and entertainment companies, A-list directors and talent have come to us at Adobe and said, I need help. Can you help me figure out how to use responsible AI to ingest all the IP and create a world that understands what I do, understands my brand, understands my creative direction, understands my franchise IP. And so world building requires 2 things. It actually requires not just the assets, but it also requires a very deep knowledge of AI training. And for media and entertainment in particular, they have a lot of pain. And this is driven actually by us because we have an insatiable need for fresh content, and that content is video content. So I read a really scary stat last week, which said we are up to watching 12 hours of video content in various forms a day. It finally plateaued this year, thank goodness, because I think we all realize we need to eat, sleep, and shower at some point, so we can't actually consume any more video content. But this becomes a push and a pull, right? We need to put more content onto the world. Content is very expensive to create. The industry has about $35 billion of production spend in the space. It takes something like $200,000 to produce a Netflix quality minute of video content. So these are kind of big numbers, right? And it takes a very long time. If you're doing a park attraction at a theme park, if you're putting a movie onto a screen, this is over 2 years. So all of these are compounding that problem and the reason why people are coming in and asking us. They've also tried what I would call off the shelf model products out there. And what they eventually find is even if they can do a little light tuning with an extension or a LoRa, the model loses the plot, right? It can't keep track of all the motion paths, the characters, etc. And so this is why Adobe, who has a storied history with Hollywood, a really positive one, we've been ourselves winners of multiple technical Oscars. If you didn't know, there's a bunch of sci-tech Oscars out there. We've won those for After Effects, for Photoshop, for Premiere Pro. We've won a corporate achievement award from the Emmy. So like we've been part of this story for a long time, part of Best Picture, part of Best Editing. And it made sense to why filmmakers and media and entertainment companies turned to us when they had a question about this. And so what we are working on, which is really interesting, is across this spectrum of customization. If you haven't used Adobe Firefly, please go try it. Our base models are the only enterprise-grade, commercially safe models. And what that means is we asked and have the rights to train on every piece of data going in. That means every creator agreed to it or was compensated for that in the process. We stand behind that promise. Um, and it doesn't know your IP. So if you throw at Wonder Woman, it throws up its hands and says, I don't understand that. And that we consider a feature, not a bug of the model. But if you need it to understand more about the brand, we have something called custom models. Custom models can do light customization, and that means it starts to understand one concept at a time for imagery. And the third thing which we are working on is this idea of world model building. This is where in a IP protected environment, we take your IP, we mix it with our commercially safe models only for your use. So you get the benefit of the foundational model, knowledge, and your IP. And now it understands the world. So it understands characters, it understands plot lines, it understands environments and motion path. And this is really an unlock, again, to solve that problem of our need for more and more content. So I'm very excited about this. Please stay tuned because we will have more to say about it. Um, and I would like to say that, we've been working, I'll show you one example of just like something from the lab. We've been working on trying to connect these worlds. So this is Cosmos Laundromat. It's a 3D open source Blender product, so it's out there for project for us, for anybody to use and play with. And it was available on YouTube. And we took about 10 minutes of this footage. It's obviously got a very particular style. You'll see Franck, the unfortunately suicidal sheep who features in this project. And we see Victor, the red-headed salesman who like brings him back to life and gives him a new lease on life. So we trained with this content. And on the next slide, what you see is the output. Now these are generated. So back to world model building, we took in the content in a safe way. We retrained the model. And now you can generate via prompt clips that are very much in the style of that Cosmos Laundromat. There is still some uncanny valley aspects, like his eye is a little askew all the time, so things that need to be changed, but obviously you can see how this would accelerate the creativity path. I also just pulled out 4 samples for you to see where you can see more closely the prompt adherence to the actual clip, and you can see things like emotional direction, camera push-in, right? 360 views. So this is an amazing leap forward in the idea of being able to protect your IP and have a world that understands it with AI. Okay, so what is the implication of world building? World building means we can go to that idea in your sketchbook that is locked there all the way to a final frame in much less time. And I think that's a win for everyone. Whether, my daughter's in high school right across the street here, she's interested in art. So many more people will have access to tooling that will let them tell their stories, and I think will be a better world for it. Less about restriction of budget, less about restriction of gatekeepers to who gets to show content. Okay, Thank you for hanging with me through those 3 unlimited possibilities. I like to just leave you with some practical tips too, right? Like, how do you go from playground to production? Most of us, most of you all, because you're here and interested in tech, have probably experimented with this. And I would give you posit 3 things to get started with. The first one is around the use case. So the days of experimentation are probably over in the sense that there's just not enough money in the world for us to just keep experimenting without scale. So think about what use cases solve what kind of problems for you in your company or your situation, and then employ the AI, and then when it starts to work, start scaling it. The second thing is, I would say we need to lead from the front, and you guys are the change makers here. It is a scary time because of change. And generally, as humans, we don't like change, right? We reject it first, we're a little afraid of it, then we start to adopt it in the familiar. This is a typical change curve. So I would say all of you need to, lead from the front, sponsor a project, get a team going, tell people it's okay to try and fail. This is actually a really big um, element of adopting for change. And then the last thing is think about the nutrition label of the AI models that you're using. So not all AI was created equal. I explained how we approached AI and training and licensed data. I would just say when you are using models, just think about whether your IP that you bring to it stays protected or it's sucked back into the model to be trained for someone else's use. Okay, so think about that nutrition label. So in closing, I really appreciate the time. As time, money, the gatekeepers, the resources, they kind of fade as limitations. And that means that we get more creativity. Ideas start to flourish at a faster rate. And I'm really excited to see so many more beautiful films, artistic projects, brand campaigns go from that locked in the sketchbook all the way to vision accomplished and realized. So thank you so much. Enjoy this wonderful day at the seaport. Thank you.